I feel like if you play enough war games, you will find a unit that offends you on a personal level. And for me, it's centigor. They have so much potential. They're so close to being good in an army that would really, really love to have a fast cavalry unit. And they're just not. So I'm going to take centigor to a tournament. This video is brought to you by the TSN Arena, the #1 place to go for Old World and Age of Sigmar tournaments here in Nottingham. Rob runs a wide range of events, from 500-point forays all the way up to 2,600-point mega battles, where single models like dragons have a less pronounced effect on the game and you see bigger bricks of infantry. Of course, there's still the normal 2,000-point battles, but even in there there's some room for experimentation, with fan-favourite events like the river battles going incredibly quickly. The TSN Arena is located on the outskirts of Nottingham City Centre near the Motorpoint Arena, and it is conveniently located in the middle of plenty of parking spots within walking distance of multiple hotels and 2 great places to go for food, including Sneinton Market, which has a wide range of options. So, if you're interested in going to a venue where there's plenty of table space, the comfiest chairs that I've been in at any venue, and free drinks all weekend, go to www.tsnarena.com to buy your tickets today. Link in the description. Now, I've talked about setting myself a goal to win 4 events with 4 different armies, so that my top 4 rankings for the end of year's Masters event that the top 24 players in the UK get invited to are all with different armies. I think that's just a cool thing to do. That's not what this is. That's not what this is at all. This is completely different. This is the first time that I'm going to a tournament and I'm writing a list with the intention of not writing a list to win the event, which is very much not my norm. Don't get me wrong. When I'm there, I'm still going to play to win. I'm going to do my best. Obviously, make sure I'm giving my opponents a good game. But we're not writing the list with the intention of trying to win this time round. Why is that? The reason is I'm going to a 500-point event. Now, this is not a beginner event specifically, but it is more beginner-focused than the normal events I go to. So it would be very, very easy to break 500 points and just go, oh, let's run. How many zombies can we fit in here? Do I win on default? Probably. Or, what are the good things? Ruby Ring of Ruin, or the Rune of Bursting Flame for dwarves. These are things that you can look at and go, these are objectively very strong at lower point levels. So I'm going to avoid those to my best ability. I don't want to just go with the stuff that's obviously good. That's not to say I'm not going to try and, make the best list I can within the limitations I'm setting myself. Don't get me wrong, I'm still going to write a good list. But I want to avoid the things that are like obvious gimmies. I don't want to put a Ruby Ring in because I think at 500 points that might be too strong. Not for someone who brings a tuned list, but if I get paired into someone who is bringing, just 500 points of models they own, I don't want to have a single magic item that makes me go, oh, well, I just win then, and there's no play in it. Not to shame the people who will be taking these items. They're obviously strong. People are going to bring them. Some people are going to go and try and win this event. As someone who tries to go to win events, I'm not a yuck and you're yum. However, I wanted to take this as a personal challenge to cool it a little bit on the list writing front. And so I gave myself a few restrictions. I bought this ticket when Rob announced in the group chat that the TSN Arena, he was going to open up the event, he was going to add another 10 tickets, because I'd had my eye on this for a little while. I was like, oh, it'd be quite fun to play 500 points. 4 games in a day, a little bit of casual wargaming, sounds like a good time. And I've spent the last sort of 3 days going, ooh, what do I want to do? I thought about Wood Elves to start off with, Dryads. I think Dryads would be a really solid unit to put in, but it falls down to someone who brings a Ruby Ring of Ruin, like a big brick of Dryads with a Branch Wraith. I think that's just a really cool thing that is strong at 500 points. With that, it's not unbeatable. They're T4, they're skirmish. You can put, if, the Branch Wraith in there with Illusion or whatever. I think there's some really good stuff in there, but it falls over to a Ruby Ring of Ruin, which I don't really love that. That feels like it would be disappointing to play. And then there's some other directions. I'd like to go dwarves. I don't really want to play the Rune of Bursting Flame, but if I'm playing dwarves, I'd struggle to write a list I'm happy with without putting the good stuff in. And then, elves. Obviously, I love elves, but the actual cost per model of elves is quite high. So then having units that you're happy with putting on the table, I was struggling to write lists that I was satisfied with. So from there I got thinking, and I thought, well, why don't I... There's 2 armies that I'm thinking about doing to try and win an event with as my next 2 events. The ones that I'm thinking of are Tomb Kings and Beastmen. I thought, why don't I just, maybe look at one of those? And I wrote some really solid Tomb King lists. But they didn't feel fun for the opponent. I thought they were going to be too uninteractive. Like, if I'm putting 3 bow shouty in at 500 points with the ability to just keep them alive through rezzing, I think that's probably too good. Maybe I'm misjudging the power level of 500 points, and I'm going to get my ass handed to me. That is definitely a possibility. But all of the Tomb King lists that I was writing, I was like, this just feels maybe a little bit too much. It doesn't feel good to put on the table. So then I was like, well, if I'm doing this, maybe I just take a unit that I hate. Maybe that's the solution. Maybe the way to get around the internal struggle of me not writing just the best list I can is to hamstring myself by taking something that is objectively something that I don't want to play. And then as soon as I landed on that, I was like, okay, so if I'm talking about Beastmen and Tomb Kings, I like everything in Tomb Kings. I really don't like wild centigors. So let's go with centigors. Let's have a quick look at centigors so you can all see why I think they are terrible. Beastmen have some of the best special rules in the game. They are incredible, and they layer on top of each other in a way that's kind of beautiful to see. You pass a leadership test, in a good way. You can end up re-rolling 1s, AP2 on your hand weapons, and you get an additional 2 attacks each. That's wild. That's really, really good. So it's really rare for me to look at a special rule that Beastmen have and go, wish they didn't have that. But there is one. It's Drunken, and centigors, including the Warhoof, the character model, who I've also decided I'm going to be using. But we'll get to that one. I'm more happy about the Warhoof. Centigors are Drunken. The start of each subturn of your phase. Let's try that again. Sorry, I'm very ill, and I'm cutting between the coughs, so I am not quite delirious, but not 100% with it. Maybe that's why I've decided to play Centigor. Who can say? Maybe I'll regret this when I'm, well and better in a couple of days' time and just looking back on what I've done. Maybe that's why I'm making the video. So I can't back down. I've committed to the bit. Now I've got to do it. Who can say? Who can say? Will this even make it into the video? I don't know. Probably not. Unless I forget to edit it. Anyway, Drunken. So, start of turn. Each of your start of turn subphase. So remember that you have 6 turns in a game. You've got to roll a d6 for each drunk unit. On a 1, the unit loses its ability to move and charge normally, and it gains a random movement. d6 plus 2. d6 plus 2 is actively terrible. That is really bad. Your movement is 8. Your random movement caps at 8. That's really, really poor. Now, there are some advantages. If you're stood next to a unit with quick shot that could stand and shoot you to death, and you roll the 1, you're like, oh, amazing. I'm random moving into contact with you, and you can't stand and shoot or flee. Cool. 99% of the time, this is a bad roll on the table. And remember, you have to roll it for every unit, every turn, as long as you're not in combat frenzied or fleeing. 2 to 5, you get to use your unit normally. Cool. Okay, sure. And then 6 belligerent drunks. Until next start of turn, you are frenzied. You can become frenzied this way, even if you've lost frenzied earlier in the game. So you've got a 1 in 3 chance to just be not controlling your unit in a way that is, what you want to do. And I hate that. And in the spirit of fun, I'm going to be doing it. So we'll see how we get on. Let's look at the rest of the unit, and then we'll actually have a look at the Foray rules and start building out the list. So Centigor, 19 points a model. That's kind of expensive, honestly, verging into elf territory. It's good movement. Now, I will give them. It's movement 8, that's really solid. Comes with skirmishers and swift stride, so it's a very mobile army unit. Weapon skill 4, not bad. Strength and toughness 4, that's good. Really solid there. Single wound, single attack, sure. Initiative 2. Doesn't feel good if you're going to be countercharged. Speaking of, obviously no countercharge here because it's a fast cav unit. Leadership, not great. Not loving that. Okay, comes with a unit of 5. So for 5 of them, you're paying 95 points. But you have to, or well, you don't have to, but you can take a weapon. You should do this. 1 point per model to get a weapon is definitely worth doing here. So, which weapon do you go for? Well, you lose the shields if you go for the great weapons. But the great weapons are the best output, and you're only initiative 2 anyway. So I think I might be going with great weapons, and I might regret that. Now, another problem, Games Workshop Centigor models are pricey and terrible. So we got to come up with a solution for that. But I'm ahead of you on that one. We'll show the solution there in a second. But yeah, so this unit feels like it should have light armor. I know they're naked models, but it feels like it needs something. I think I'm going to spend 20 points per model to give them great weapons and just accept that I'm going to have no save at all and be kind of just have to live with that. If I, roll a 1 and I random move and I'm stuck out in the open, that's really going to suck when I get shot to pieces. But, we'll make it work, maybe. You can give them ambushes, you can give them a magic standard, yada, yada, yada. Whatever. We might be giving them javelins, because having the unit able to march 16 inches and still shoot is not bad. Not terrible. At 500 points, being able to get use out of your units, even if they're doing something, like moving 16 inches, I think that might be very solid. Rules on there, less rules than I'd like to see. Less Beastmen rules, anyway. There's 2 special rules here for the Beastmen army, which is Primal Fury, which is take a leadership test in combat. If you pass it, reroll 1s to hit. That's good. That's a really good rule. They are only leadership 6 or 7 if you can swing for a gore hoof, which we'll see if we can fit one of those in. And then Drunken, which we've already talked about, and I hate it. We hates it. The Precious, we hates it. Other than that, we've got Marked Chaos Undivided, rerolling Fear, Panic, Terror. Do like that. But where's my foe render? Where's my blood rage? I want, if you're going to make me frenzied, at least make me good when I'm frenzied. Other than that, they've got Horde and Warband, which is, Horde is funny because they're never going to be ranked up. Warband gives me a reroll on the charge, so I don't hate that at all. And there's a stomp attack as well. So if this naked model, if this single wound T4 naked model survives after my opponent makes all of their initiative-based attacks at me, I will get to stomp back. I think even at 500 points, these things are bad. But I think at 500 points, I can maybe make them work. So I'm going to play around with them. Let's have a look at the Foray rules before I go too off track ranting about this this abomination that I've, for some reason, nobody made me do this. I've decided to do it. What's wrong with me? Okay, so what is a Foray event? This is something that Rob's put together. It's a 500-point event pack. He runs them out of the TSN Arena. You can go to tsnarena.com/500-point-foray, and it gives you the rules there. You can find it on the event pack tab. Easy to find. Good rules. He sells them as on his store as well, I think, as a... Maybe. Look into that. Anyway, they're free on the website. You can find them. So, how does it work? We've modified it to perfectly play the old world in smaller battles. List writing, 2 units minimum. You must have at least 2 non-character units rather than 3. This is a good change. At 2,000 points, you have to have 3 units. 500 points having 2. Making it mandatory to have 3 probably would be difficult to fit in for some armies. Like elves might find it more difficult. Characters, you can only spend 125 points on a character. This is harder than I thought it was going to be. I did a lot of list building, and I was like, ooh, what juicy characters can I make? What combat monsters can I make? And yeah, you kind of struggle. Limitations, you can take 25% as a single unit as rare, which is also the amount of rare you can take in total. However, special and core can go above the 25% cap, which makes sense. Again, when you're trying to put, just elves in a unit, you'll be like, oh, I've got 12 models here, and that's 170 points. Huh. This unit's expensive. Good job it's in core. So, having a little bit more flexibility here to have bigger core units and bigger special units is good. I don't think I'm going to use it. Beastmen are pretty cheap. But we'll see how the list building goes. And then also, this is the important thing, 0 to 1 per 1,000 points. You can take a single 0 to 1 per 1,000 point option in your army at 500 points, which I think is great. If we're talking like Woodsman of Trace, being able to actually take the Tracian Woodsman is really nice, and not just, running around with like, oh, I guess I've got Spearmen or Archers or whatever else you can take in that detachment. It's a smaller map, and then using the TPS, the terrain picking system, winner of the roll-off chooses deployment zone, deploys the first unit, and then alternates. So standard stuff there. Rules for hills, rules for woods, rules for camps. Camps are impassable terrain. Units have got to go around them. Cool. Okay, good just to have it clarified. I think these are all just basically the rules as stand, but I guess if you're playing 500 points and you're looking to play 500 points and you're looking at this pack, maybe you're more likely to be a casual player. The camera's gone again! Yeah! You saw nothing. So, Foray. Scenarios. There's 3 sets of scenarios, which is interesting because there's 4 games, so I guess we'll repeat one of them. something I like here is the winner of a roll-off chooses who takes first turn. It doesn't say anything about whoever gets the, finishes deploying first, gets +1 to the dice roll, which I think is probably good, given that it's a smaller size game. So people are probably just going to have 2 or 3 units. So just removing that and just going to, it's a 50-50, I think feels a bit better. 5 rounds instead of 6 until one concedes. Okay, good to know. And then it's victory points for killing stuff, and then also you get 25 points for a standard, 25 points for a BSB. Good luck fitting a BSB in these lists, although I guess it's technically possible. 50 VP if you kill the general as well. So all good stuff. And then, as you can see, quite tight boards here. It's going to be hard to bring big units. I guess it's hard to bring big units anyway. But yeah, good stuff there. So nice and simple for game number 1. Number 2, take the camp. Everything here is the same. All the same. And then also objective markers. Core unit within 6 with unit strength 10 or more. Not fleeing, not stupid. Yeah, it's the standard controlling. You get 10 VP for each camp they control. So I guess you can get 100 victory points over a 5-round game for controlling your camp. So we might try to fit in a unit strength 10 scoring unit. Okay, good to know. Although, that's a lot of points. I guess Beastmen have cheap units, so we can probably try and squeeze that in. Scenario 3 sees the tower. Controlling the tower is the goal of both armies. You get 100 victory points at the end of the battle if you control the tower, which is controlling 275 of the core rulebook. I think the first video on this channel is an ogre battle report, or maybe it was when I was still uploading on the 6++ channel. There is a battle report with ogres in an actual tower in Old World, but forgive me, I've forgotten how that works. So let's have a quick look at those rules. So somehow this is editor ed. I managed to play a video in the background of the next 30 minutes of footage that I recorded. Neat. So I gotta re-record this. So apologies that they won't necessarily have the same childlike sense of wonder, of discovery, because I've already written the list. But that's okay. This doesn't need to be a long video. If I don't want to get out of the habit of making a Tuesday video, and but I'm very ill, so this was more, I had a fun idea that I wanted to put together, and here we are now, suffering together. You and me, we're locked in. Look me in the eyes. I just need you to tell me I can do it. I just need you to reassure me it's all going to be okay. On the upside, if I wanted to sing the blues, now would be a fantastic time. With the raspy voice I've got going. I see green. Maybe not, actually. Maybe not. I did discover that towers are really bad for centigors. Let's have a look at this. So, the only thing that can control towers, unit strength 10 or less infantry or characters that are infantry. Amazing. Interestingly, you could have an infantry character with unit strength of 10 or greater. That would be allowed to control it. That doesn't exist, but just an odd gap in the rules there. But, special rules. You can only charge units that are holding the tower if you are infantry or if you are fly. Oh! That's not good. That's not good at all. I'm going to really struggle on the tower. That's a round that I think I might just lose. So, neat. Other rules. You can see over things as if it's a hill. They don't fall back in good order or give ground if the unit holding the tower loses combat, but if they break and flee, they just run away, which is fine. On templates, all models can potentially be hit, but they only get hit on a 5+. And then I think you get cover as well. There's something in here about... Is there not anything about being partially obscured? Maybe you can't shoot them. It's alright. And also cannons. I did say at the time, I hope no one's bringing a cannon. I bet someone's going to bring a cannon. I can just see it. I can see it coming. We'll find out together. You and I. next weekend, whether someone's bringing a tower. Anyway, towers, you garrison them with infantry, and you can only attack them with infantry. So my centigor dream is still happening, but it's just way worse. That's basically where we are together. Let's just go on to the list that I built previously, and I'll talk through why I made the decisions that I made. So, in terms of what we need to have, you have to have a unit of gore. That's just like a go-to. This is inarguable. You can't decide not to have them. I started off with 5. It was just kind of, let's see what we've got. Additional hand weapons, giving them shields doesn't feel super worthwhile. Ambushes is probably decent, but I feel like I probably want the pressure on the board. And they're a unit that can only charge. Gore are solid. I like Gore as a unit. They're one of the few units that have open order and skirmish, which is really strong, especially in shooting matters. Like, when you've got loads of Cathay balloons, being able to be in skirmish for an additional -1 to be hit is really nice. Not expecting to see balloons at this event, obviously. But they also have a million rules on here as well. So they've got Primal Fury for the rerolls. They've got Bestial Charge for +1 strength from the charge. They've got Blood Rage, so they get an extra attack when they're frenzied. Horde and Warband, great rules in combo. Move through cover, Mark of Chaos Undivided for rerolling Fear, Panic, and Terror. Really, really solid stuff. Just a good stat line as well. T4 Skirmishers, that's good. Move 5, great stuff. So I'd like to go bigger on this unit. Then we were talking about the event pack as well, and I can't remember if I got through the entirety of it or if I just got to the end of 2. Let's have a look here. 3 is Seize the Tower. Okay, yeah. So in 2, controlling the objective marker, you can see here, the bloody camera's gone again. I'll fix that in a second. The unit strength 10 unit of core is holding it. So I probably want to put in some Ungor as a ranged unit, can sit in the back, hold it, and hopefully get 100 points over the course of the game. Right, let me fix this camera. Okay, we're back. I can do this. Warhoof. Warhoof, just apart from Drunken, which I hate fervently, with every fibre of my being, I hate. Movement 8, Weapon Skill 5, Strength 5, Toughness 4, 3 wounds on a hero level character is pretty nuts, and 4 attacks. Like, this thing's an absolute beat stick. Gonna give it a great weapon. I was looking at options defensively, and I was thinking, what if I gave it like the cheap plate armor, the blackened plate here, and then I could give it a charm shield. So for 30 points, I'd have a 3-up armor save and a single 5-up ward save. And then I thought, why not just pay 10 points more, upgrade to this, and just get a normal shield instead? So it's 42 points instead of 30. Yeah, 12 points more. That feels like a good trade-off to me. And it also means that I can always use the ward save in combat as well. So full plate felt pretty good, but also it lets me save the blackened plate, which is obviously very good on a Shartak. And then if I want to put a Dragon Ogre Shartak in here, I've got this beat stick, which is my answer to the Ruby Ring. So if someone's bringing the Ruby Ring to win their games, I'm going to be running around with a 2-up save from my full plate and my armored hide, and also a 5-up ward save against magic missiles. So, yeah, that's the thing. Of course, if someone brings Valtide, I just cry. But other than that, this feels like a solid approach. Razorgores, I think Razorgores are really good. They are very fast, move 7 with Swift Stride. We're playing on a smaller board. They're quite punchy. 4 attacks, strength 5. They're, if you pass your leadership test, you get AP2, plus you've got Armor Bane. You've got some impact hits on there. You're very cheap, 50 points, 52 points is just solid there, and quite hard to remove at lower levels as well, I think. Which then basically just left me to the 5 Centigor, giving them great weapons, giving them javelins. Obviously, that feels like the best loadout. Sure, they're completely naked, but I can march and I can shoot. And then the unit champion to give them some decent leadership as well, in case they need it. And then I've just got a few points left over, and I think the only real thing to do here is to buff up the number of gore. I could drop down the Ungor 2 models, and then go like here, and then find 3 points, maybe drop the javelins off the Centigor, which would give me 2 units of 10. That might be better, but honestly, I think if we just go, I think it was 8 gore and 12 Ungor, this feels about the best I could do. I also could put in a Tusk or Chariot. I feel like a Chariot would be really good at 500 points. Which maybe that's the direction I need to go down. I haven't quite decided. So this is the base thinking. When you've stopped telling me how sorry you all feel for me, for how ill I am and how I'm a hero for, doing such a difficult job, sitting in front of a computer and talking complete bollocks into a camera. Truly the hardest of jobs. The more ill I get, the more deliriously funny I think I am, which is a problem. For you, not for me. I'm great. Anyway, outside of you all pointing out that I'm ill and coughing, etc., I would love feedback on this list, because I've got a Warhoof here, who is, T4, 3 up save against shooting, or 4 up save in combat, 5 up ward save, very punchy, 4 attacks with a great weapon, strength 7 great weapon, if that was necessary at 500 points. It shouldn't be, but, we'll see. This feels really solid. I'm really impressed with this. This is here because I've decided I'm doing a funny thing. This Dragon Ogre, I think, should be able to absolutely slap 4 attacks, T4, 4 wounds, with a 2 up save, 5 up ward against magic missiles. This feels like an absolute beat stick, but it's also a 7-inch move model that has to respect charge arcs, so it's not like it's impossible to play around. So it's good, but in a way that it doesn't feel like I'm just pushing an I win button, which is, what I'm trying to avoid. And then the core is what I'm least happy with. Like, I feel like, what do I do if someone brings just like a big brick of, something that I can't deal with? Just 175 points of Night Goblins with Fanatics. I think I would just cry. I think crying is the option there. But yeah, let me know your thoughts. Now, I have alluded to the fact that I think that half of the Beastmen range looks horrendous. Absolutely horrendous. So let me show you how I've resolved this issue. I messaged Beowulf Minis, channel member, friend of the channel, not yet someone that we're working with officially, but the goal is to have an affiliate link the same way I do with Element Games, but for their 3D printing service. So you can find them on Etsy. You can go to their website as well, Beowulf Miniature Printing, I think. I'll put them down in the description. You'll be able to find them. Anyway, messaged him and said, hey, I want to do this, bit cheeky. If I place an order, will you be able to get them to me in time for me to paint? He said, yeah, that's absolutely fine. So shout out for that, really appreciate it. So I ordered those this morning, and hopefully should have them by this weekend to give me some time to paint. So I've gone for these things, which are really nice Razor Gore sculpts. I do like them. The Avatar of War sculpts I think look fantastic. I'm a big fan of what they bring. I normally really like Games Workshop plastic, but I feel like these add in a way that I think is interesting. So I've picked up one of these with the 2 heads. And then I've also gone for this one here that's strapped to the 9s with metal. I just think that's going to be some interesting contrast paint-wise on the tabletop. Speaking of paint, in fact, we'll talk about paint in a second. The other 2 things I picked up were these centigors, because these centigors I think look actively good. These centigors, in my opinion, look like what Games Workshop would sculpt if they had done them, this side of the century. I think they're really nice models, but also the multi-part. So comes with all these pieces here. I can actively give them hands like this, because I can't give them shields and great weapons. And these weapons here, I think look close enough to represent great weapons without anyone really being bothered. It's not like there's going to be any confusion. All of my Centigor will have great weapons, so that should be nice and clear. But yeah, so that's the Centigor that I've got there, and these are the Razor Gore. And then also picked up one of the Orc Boar chariots as well. So this is obviously not Beastmen, but I think it's a good thing that I can put Beastmen on the back of. There isn't a Beastmen chariot done by Avatar of War, as far as I can tell anyway. So going for the Orcs and Goblins one, probably just replace this, like the Gork face up at the top, and replace the 2 models in the back. The Tuskors here at the front are the same for Beastmen. The actual chariot, I think, looks really solid there as well. So, yeah, happy to be putting those in. And I've got the option to put a Tuskor chariot into the list if I want to, if that's something that I decide that I want to do. Which maybe it is. Maybe it is. Who can say? Who can say? The other thing that I want to talk about and want advice on, because I think these models are lovely, but how do I paint them? Well, I had 2 thoughts. Anyone can paint Beastman brown. I could paint Beastman brown. It would be very easy. I could just spray him sort of like sand, hit him with the zenithals, and then, a bit of contrast, jobs are good. Kind of fancy, because there's not going to be a high model count army, I kind of fancy doing a bit more hobbying with them. One of the things I wanted when I bought this event ticket was I was like, oh, I'd love to just do it as like a mini hobby project, but also I'm thinking about doing Beastmen as my next army anyway, so just having some nice models as almost like a test run for the theme would be nice. Also, I am still going to be painting the shields for Bretonians. Don't worry about that. This is just something I'm doing additionally. Yeah, so I had 2 thoughts, and I would really like to hear feedback on this. The first one is paint them. You used to be able to give Beastmen marks at one point where you could have Corn Gore, Slan Gore, have them represent the mark. So I was thinking, first of all, painting my army bright red, like, sorry, throat's worrying. Painting them as if they are corn demons, so like blood letters, that sort of bright red. Or, alternatively, something that has a little bit of like body horror upsetting to look at, which I quite like the concept of, is back when I used to be able to paint, I used to put a lot more time into painting, and then I started painting full armies. I did this corn demon prince, and this sort of like flesh colouring I think would be really nice. If I can remember the recipe, which I cannot off the top of my head, this could be another good way to do them, and I think that would be quite sickening to look at on the tabletop, in a good way. I feel like I want my Beastmen to look kind of disgusting in a way. So, yeah. I really open to thoughts about how to paint the Beastmen, and let's wrap it up there, because I'm I'm losing my ability to be sane. Hopefully, I'm feeling better for tomorrow. Fix my list, but either way, I'm going to be trying to bring some footage, do some updates for WTC this weekend. I'm not sure 100% what format that's going to take, because obviously I'm still quite ill, but we'll see. We'll work through, and yeah.
Thank you for watching. Thank you for getting to the end of the video. If you've reached this point and you haven't already, I would really appreciate a like, a comment, a subscription if you haven't done those things. It just helps me get seen by more people, boost me up in the algorithm, all of the stuff that the YouTubers do like to say. If you would like to support me in my goal to become a full-time YouTuber, I would absolutely appreciate that. You can become a member below. There are various perks to those, name at the end of the videos, all that good stuff, but it also unlocks some VIP areas in Discord if you become a Longbeard or Ground Knight tier supporter. Those VIP sections are the only parts that are locked away in Discord. You don't have to be a member to join the Discord. I'd recommend that you should. We've got about 450, 500 people on there. It's a great place for discussion, a lot of fun. I do try and chime in as much as possible. And it's also where the Fix My List show lists are put, and also if you are one of the Grail Knight or Longbeard tier supporters, where you participate in choosing which list I play in the monthly Pick My List series.